It's another grab bag of gaming topics on the second free play episode of Season 6. Coming off of the fresh rants of the last one, I can only imagine what we've got for this one. So listen in while you're at the beach, the pool, or simply in your home, cuddled up next to your favorite fan or air conditioner, as Tanya and I talk about anything gaming right here on Downloadable Content next. Welcome to Downloadable Content. I'm Brian, and with me we have Tanya from Kisareth. Welcome back.
Hello.
And Tanya alone. It's a Tanya alone and alone day. No Ron here. He's off probably D&Ding somewhere. He does that. He has dragons to slay and virgins to cure and all of that. So
virgins to cure. I like that.
It's he does that in his spare time. He can't always, be here with Downloadable Content. So it is Tanya and I. So it'll be a nice episode, a little quiet, a little intimate. We'll bandy ideas back and forth, and hopefully you guys out there will enjoy. It is July 23rd as of this recording. I don't know when this episode goes up, so this whatever we talk about might not be relevant in a few weeks' time, but whatever. We'll have fun with it.
Hell yeah.
We will have fun with it. So before we dive in, just want to remind you out there on the wide world of the internet that every single episode of Downloadable Content can be found on our gluten-free, vegan-friendly website, www.dlcpodcast.com. You can check out our bios. You can see the upcoming recording schedule. If any of you ever want to be on an episode, drop us a line. Let us know. You can also use the feedback to give us ideas for future episodes. So it's all there. Again, www.dlcpodcast.com. So with that, Tanya and I have got some topics that we're going to mention and discuss and very likely rant over. So,
that is what we do, isn't it?
It is what we do. The thing is, I'm starting to wonder if, the rants that come up on these episodes are projecting that we're angry people. We're not. We are fun-loving souls. It's just, I don't know why we are channeling our inner Lewis Black for these episodes, but it happens.
It does. It really does.
So I'm gonna start us off with something in the not ranting department. That'll probably change as we go on. But gonna start off here talking a bit about nostalgia.
Okay.
Because it's something that we have talked about very frequently on Downloadable Content, and how I continue to talk about how indie developers have taken notice of this, because a lot of indie developers are people who are in our age bracket, late 20s, 30s, maybe even early 40s, people who grew up on the Atari or NES or Super Nintendo, have a desire and a longing to keep playing these types of games, and getting perceived as getting left behind by the AAA major developers whose business model now is just every single game has to be an ADD binge.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I bring this up because I've seen recent evidence that finally AAA developers are starting to notice, hey, wait a minute. maybe those older gamers are actually still relevant after all. So I bring this up with some of the news that has happened in recent days. We have, obviously, the release of Pokemon Go.
Which is so huge, it's incredible to behold. It really is.
Yeah, Nintendo, this is the closest right now we have a game that's out on mobile platforms that we have to actual real-life breathing Pokemon. It's like, suddenly it's Pokemon, the game, the life, the experience.
Actually, yeah, it is. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It absolutely is.
People are out and about. They're getting outside. We're getting out of our sheltered indoor living rooms and the sun, evil burning Daystar. We're actually going out and about, meeting people, trying to catch them all. And right now, I think the game only has the original 150 to start, and out of the 751 that is currently in existence, I think there are tens of millions of people that are all playing this game at once. And as Nintendo does a slow global release, I think Canada just recently got it. Japan got it just a couple of days ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Japan wasn't the first.
Wow, I that's surprising. Wow.
So, and it has taken off. I mean, you check out if you were to look at my Facebook friends page or Tumblr, it's like I'm getting such whiplash because I will go through like 20 posts about how our politics, our presidential election, the Republicans suck. We're seeing the rise of the angry orange creamsicle as the Third Reich. And then I just caught a Vaporeon. It's such whiplash.
It really is. It's same thing on my end. Same thing on my end. That's what I see. It's either politics or Pokemon Go.
Yeah, that's like what?
Oh man, but I just saw an article today about Pokemon Go that apparently Nintendo's stock went up to such a degree that now they're worth more than Sony combined.
Yes.
Because of Pokemon Go. That is incredible. They're worth like $30 billion now.
Oh yeah, their stock just shot up. I'm still planning to do a future episode just doing a 2-hour Nintendo rant, but then they do something like this and everybody loves them again. So it's like, yeah, if I were to do an episode now just bashing the hell out of Nintendo, I think it'd be like, well, what do you mean? They just put out a game that have tens of millions of people playing it. We love Nintendo. Because, continuing the nostalgia theme, and you've seen this, Tanya, and I saw this, Nintendo is also re-releasing a small HDMI version of the original NES.
This thing, day freaking 1, November 11th, I'm going to be at either my GameStop or local retailer, whoever's going to carry this damn thing. I'm going to be in line day 1. I'm buying it. I'm going to hook it up, and I'm going to play freaking Final Fantasy and Double Dragon 2 and Super C and not Mike Tyson, but I should say Punch-Out and Mr. Dream. I'm going to play all those games so much that I might do a 24-hour just like marathon of playing NES games on my 4K TV. Like, seriously, that is what I'm going to do.
And I might do the same exact thing, because even though it's not going to be able to play the cartridges that are probably still in many of our closets and basements, it's still going to have 30 built-in games. And I know all of you out there are probably going, well, we have emulators for that already. Why are you going to plunk down? It's nostalgia.
It is, absolutely. I mean, there's just something. Yeah, I have everything emulated on my computer. You do too, I'm sure, Brian.
I do.
So, sure, I could boot up I'm on my computer now. I'm looking at emulators right now on my computer on my desktop. So sure, I could do that, and I do that. But there's something special about an intent, and this is really what it is. It's not a third-party made system like the Sega Genesis one that had the built-in games in it, or the Atari one. Those are third-party built systems that were out on like Toys R Us, whatever.
Yep.
But this is Nintendo-made, Nintendo seal of quality. It is an original NES, and it's got the controller. It has that classic controller that I miss, that I haven't used in years. I mean, there's just something about holding that in your hand on a big screen TV, and you're transported back to when you were a kid, and you're having a time of your life. Am I wrong?
Admittedly, I still, when I play an NES game on an emulator, I have an NES USB controller, because to me, playing these games on an Xbox 360 controller just feels so wrong.
It does.
It feels
really does.
so wrong. And even though the NES controller is not easy on the hands, it's the experience. I am going to buy this NES. It's going to be $60, and it's going to have 30 games in it. It's with one main difference. I can actually now beat the original Mario Brothers.
Right?
I couldn't when I was 5. Yes!
Yeah, this is awesome. I mean, and these 30 games are not like throwaway games. We're talking iconic games on this list. Games that I would have bought anyway for the system. Mega Man 2, Punch-Out, Super C. I don't know why they put Super C, not Contra in there, but whatever. But, Super C, Metroid, Mario Bros. 1, 2, and 3, freaking Bubble Bobble is in there, Kid Icarus, oh god.
Let's see, I've got the list. Ninja Gaiden,
yeah.
Tecmo Bowl.
Oh, that's a classic. Right there. That's classic, yep.
Dr. Mario, Excite Bike, Galaga,
yeah.
Ice Climbers.
Oh, not really. Ice Climbers, whatever, but...
the first 2 Castlevania games.
Oh, yeah, see, I love Castlevania. I do, and for me, that sells the system right there. It really does.
So, Nintendo is catching on the nostalgia train. It felt like that there was a bunch of announcements in 1 week. We had the announcement of the NES. We had the announcement that Crystal Pepsi and Ecto Cooler are returning. I'm like, what year is it?
1995 again?
I'm like, what is this? It's when did the 90s become fashionable again? But I don't care. I'm absolutely loving it. And on the gaming front, and this is going to dovetail with what I know you're going to mention, Tanya. AAA developers are starting to actually notice that, hey, those indie devs that have been making these retro-style games and have been selling like hotcakes? Maybe we should get in on some of that hot action.
Oh, yeah.
So, we go to Square Enix, who I am a massive critic of. I think, both of us are, seeing what they've done seeing what they have done to our poor beloved Final Fantasy series, and they create a studio called Tokyo RPG Studio, and they decided to create a game that is basically a spiritual successor to Chrono Trigger, complete with all of the old JRPG trappings that we grew up on, and they created I Am Setsuna, which is now out. It is going to be the first game that I have bought in years that I'm actually going to shell out full price for when I get it next week. And the reviews for this game, at least the user reviews, I haven't read any of the professional reviews. I have not seen a single negative review about this game yet.
I don't even know where to start. I mean, I don't even know where to start.
You have it.
I'm just gonna get right into it. If you don't mind, Brian, I'm just gonna get right into it.
Just go ahead. Just no story details, please.
No, I will not. If I even tried spoiling any of this, it would literally hurt me inside, because I think everybody who is even remotely interested and any JRPGs of the past or present should go into this game as blind as they possibly can, because this game is a freaking masterpiece. Now, I don't throw that word around. I do not. There are very few games that hold the title of masterpiece for me. Chrono Trigger is a masterpiece. Final Fantasy VI is a masterpiece. For me, Xenogears is a masterpiece, and for a lot of people hate the game. That's fine. But masterpiece is something I just don't give that title to very many games. This game is on my top 5 list. It is that amazing. The graphics are the art style. To say it's beautiful is, art is subjective, but this is objectively gorgeous. There is no fathomable way anyone on the face of this planet could tell anyone who's played this game, even for a minute, that the graphics are anything but amazing. The animations are spot on. The gameplay, 60 frames per second smooth the whole way through. It's set up. It actually plays like Chrono Trigger. The overworld functions like Chrono Triggers. The towns, the cities, the dungeons, has a very Chrono Trigger-esque vibe to them. The battle system, they say inspired by Chrono Trigger. It is the battle system from Chrono Trigger, except it has a few new bells and whistles added onto it, which only add to the experience. It's not often I say a game leaves a lasting impression on me, that I will continue to talk about a game for years to come. This is one of those games. I haven't had this. Remember that feeling, Brian, when you were a kid and you first played Chrono Trigger for the first time? Do you remember that feeling?
Well, I was 18 when I played Chrono Trigger for the first time, so.
Well, okay, but you still remember that feeling, though, when you first played. You knew it was something special, right?
Oh, it's definitely in my top 3 favorite games. So it's an amazing game.
So you knew. Playing it, I'm playing something special. This is something special. That's I Am Setsuna. That intangible feeling you get when you know you're playing something very special. The music is every single track is piano. Now, I'll be honest, going into this, that turned me off. I'm not really a big fan of piano. Honestly, I'm really not. This soundtrack is so freaking gorgeous. It's so amazing. You're going to forget it's piano. And you're just going to be like, that's an awesome track. That's an awesome sound. And you get so immersed into the game. The soundtrack it makes you feel like you're there. It's so well orchestrated. I can't say enough about the soundtrack. If it doesn't win Best Soundtrack for 2016, nothing will. It's that good. And I'm not a fan of piano. I'm really not. But every track is piano orchestrated, and it's so well done. The story, I'm not going to get into the story very much, because again, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. You deserve to go into this blind. It's just that good. I'm only in 7.5 hours into the game because I'm savoring it. I just had a huge twist happen in the story just yesterday. For the first time since I was a kid, I fangirled. I fangirled so hard in the JRPG group I'm a part of on Facebook. I literally typed in, "I'm fangirling so hard. I haven't done this since forever." Ah! That was such an awesome scene because it was so well done, this particular scene, and this particular twist. I almost cried. It is emotional. It is impactful. The characters, you care about them. You invest in them emotionally.
You invest in the story, and the narrative is extremely. And for the first time in forever, I want to talk to every single NPC in the game. I do. Like, usually I just kind of, oh, well, you know, JRPG, I know what NPCs say. I'm just going to go, you know, whatever.
Welcome to Baron.
Yeah. But in this game, I talked to every single one. Every single NPC I wanted to talk to just immerse myself further into the experience. I haven't done that since FF6 or Chrono Trigger.
Well, you know, I was seeing the trailers and whatnot for this game before it came out. Now it's out. I'm still very excited by it. I'm curious to see what happens. Again, I have not read any professional reviews on this game yet, but looking at some of the user reviews, it's like you can kind of tell by who's reviewing the game, kind of the age of the player.
It's true.
Which is funny because I'm seeing some of the reviews. It's again mostly positive, but some of the reviews are like, yeah, this game sucks because you're insta killed by bosses. You have to backtrack, and I'm like, have you not played an old JRPG?
And honestly, this is a 90s RPG released in 2016.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah,
Except that it has modern conveniences added onto it, like obviously HD resolutions and and obviously the graphics and and the soundtrack and things like that. But it is a 90s RPG. No, that's really at its core. It is Chrono Trigger 2 almost. Not in terms of story, but in terms of how it plays. It's Chrono Trigger 2. Absolutely. And I think people going in, especially kids or people under 18, we'll say, they're going to feel like a little out of place with it. They're probably not going to understand why something is the way it is, like you just said. Like, one hit, like insta-kill from an enemy, from a boss. Well, do you know how many bosses back in the day did that to us?
Oh, that's just like you think you've got him, and then it's just no, your ass is grass, and just one move and pow.
Total party wipe. It's and you learn, you adapt. You learn from whatever you did, and you go, okay, now I know what to do going in again, and then you win. I will say the difficulty level for me is perfect. The bosses are genuinely challenging. Now, they're not damage sponges, and they're not stupid. The AI is smart. You actually feel like you're playing against a human at times, because the AI is actually smart. It makes smart decisions when it's attacking you, and that's where the challenge is. You got to be strategic, you got to be tactical, and you got to exploit weaknesses. And let me tell you, in this game, status ailments are a godsend. They are awesome. They work amazing against bosses. They work amazing in this game. You got to exploit your enemy's weaknesses, or you got to create exploits for yourself in order to actually beat these bosses. You can't just level, grind, and expect to win. Because even if you're like 10, 20 levels over where you should be, it won't matter. You're gonna get your ass handed to you if you just think you're gonna mash X all the way through a fight. It won't work. And I like that genuine challenge. That doesn't feel like it's too difficult, but that doesn't feel like it's uber easy. I mean, honestly, and let's be honest here. Final Fantasy VI, well, a masterpiece of a game. It's easy as fuck. It really is. I can get through that game no problem.
Well, your mileage may vary. I mean, I am not a completionist with my games, so I tend to be underleveled by the time I get to the final boss in most cases. So,
Well, I mean, like, generally speaking, yeah, sure, you can grind yourself into oblivion and then just beat everything in the game. But I mean, like, I did okay. Like recently, I did a low-level run of Final Fantasy VI. I didn't do much grinding at all. I just kind of blazed through the game. Excuse me. And I didn't have much trouble. I think the only trouble I had was in a couple of the optional dragons there in the World of Ruin, and that was about it. Otherwise, it was. I mean, even the final boss is not hard. I mean, it's just not a hard game. It's really not. It's actually rather on the easier side of things. I would consider FF4 a lot more difficult than FF6. So, I mean, like, but this game, it's right where it needs to be in terms of difficulty. You're not going to have a hard time. And if you've ever played a 90s RPG in your life, then you're not going to have much trouble with it. In terms of picking it up, playing it. This is a very accessible game, especially for vets like you and me, Brian. It's a very accessible game.
I am looking forward to this game very much, but another one I am looking forward to just sidetrack for a bit, because this announcement came last night.
Oh.
This announcement came last night while we were having our little powwow. Sega announced a new game for its Sonic's 25th anniversary. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for it yet, because again...
Oh, I have not, no.
It's for Sonic Mania, and it's called Sonic Mania, and basically what Sega is doing is going back to Sonic's roots. We've got a 2D remastered... they're remastering the original Genesis trilogy.
Really?
And they're going to be adding new zones to them.
All right, hold on. This is a minute and 57 seconds. I'm just going to take a quick look.
Go ahead. Just watch it. It's just you and I. I'm going to edit this out so you don't have 2 minutes of just silence. Just have a look.
Yeah.
I was watching the trailer last night, and I was like, ooh.
I can't believe I'm gonna say this. I'm excited about a Sonic game. Well, when was the last time anyone said that?
I saw this last night, and we had business to discuss, so I was containing my glee.
Well, I'm excited about a Sonic game. That's alien to me. It looks amazing. I don't know what I'm feeling right now, Brian. I don't know what I'm feeling right now. I'm confused, actually.
I have not felt so excited for a Sonic game since Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
I have to agree with you.
Because, and I was talking to Nick about this. I think it was Nick. I think it was on the last Free Play episode where I think I mentioned that, just as a personal preference, I think that Sega did the worst thing that Sega ever did was to take Sonic out of 2D and start making 3D games. That is my opinion. I know that there's a lot of you who will disagree and bring up some some of the 3D Sonic games that have done well, but I was the type of gamer as a kid that I played through the original trilogy, and I felt that this is where Sonic, this is his element.
Yeah. He's meant to be in 2D. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, I'm sure, there are, some good 3D Sonics out there, I'm sure, but 2D is his home. That's where he belongs, That just, I'm hyped for a Sonic game. I'm amazed at myself.
I was very excited for Sonic 4, which came out a few years ago, episode 1 and 2, and Sega just butchered that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's sadness. Yeah.
And, Tanya, is there a TV or so on in the background for you? Because it sounds really loud.
1 second. Is that any better?
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
It was Sonic 4 Episode 1 and 2 I played, and I enjoyed it, but it didn't feel the same because to me, yes, it was a 2D Sonic game and I loved it, but it felt too polished. You didn't have the option to play as Sonic alone, because when I played Sonic as a kid, I always preferred playing as Sonic by himself. I would always go into the options into Sonic 2 and just play as Sonic alone without Tails, because Tails was a liability in the bonus stages.
Yep.
So seeing this, I'm very excited.
Sonic Mania, wow.
So I am really looking forward to seeing. The AAA developers are starting to notice that, hey, people still like these games, and I've been trying to say for years, well, fucking duh!
Right? I mean, not to float our own boat or anything, but indie devs kind of caught on to that a long time ago.
Well, I mean, there were many reasons for that, besides the whole, demand, still a strong demand. Also, it's not as expensive to produce, but still, it's like, now these AAA developers are going, hey, maybe we can get a piece of the nostalgia train.
And I mean, so we have I Am Setsuna, which just released to critical and user acclaim. We've got the Nintendo Mini, which is coming out in November, which is gonna be fantastic. We have Sonic Mania, which was just announced last night.
Yep.
I think I'm actually back in the 90s here. I mean, what about you, Brian?
And again, Crystal Pepsi and Ecto Cooler are reappearing again. It's like, what? Am I 10 again? What the hell is going on?
This is great. Honestly, this is amazing. This is great.
Yeah, screw the PS4. You just give me these.
Yeah, give me more of this. I'll be a happy Tanya, and you'll be a happy Brian.
I'm so happy, and I'm really looking forward to all of this. I'm going to pick up I Am Setsuna next week. I am going to buy a mini Nintendo when it comes out. I also will probably wind up buying a Wii U pretty soon, because now there are enough games out for it that I can justify buying the console. I know the NX is coming out whenever-ish. Well, they keep announcing all this stuff about it. We have a release date for it. We're hearing stuff about it. We don't know what the damn thing looks like!
No, it's so... I was just gonna say, I had a conversation earlier with somebody about this. We don't know what it looks like, or what the specs are. I mean, do we have any idea?
I've never known more about what isn't going on with a console system than I do with the NX, because it's like we're hearing all these things about it, but what does it look like? Is it going to be a small is it going to be a hand? What's going on?
It's at this point, it's just like, okay, NX, Nintendo NX, sounds good. Where is it? Yeah, what is it? Is it a potato? Is it a Nintendo potato that I can play games in? I mean, what the hell is it?
Well, if it's gonna be a potato, it's gonna play the new Zelda game on it. That's what we know so far. It's
which actually, I will say, the new Zelda game does look amazing. Like, it really does. It looks amazing.
It absolutely does.
But you're right. I mean, like, we don't know anything about it. But Nintendo putting out the NES Classic Edition, and Sonic Mania now, and I Am Setsuna, we're seeing AAA devs, like you said, doing a revival of not even retro stuff, because it's like, yeah, it is retro, but it's more like bringing what we love, you and I, back when we were kids to a new generation of kids for them to enjoy. And, you know, I mean, like, I'll tell anybody, you know, our biggest, I mean, like, Kisareth Studios' biggest demographic is not people my age. Our biggest demographic is kids, well, I still call them kids, but kids between 18 and 27. That's our biggest demographic. Is our biggest demographic is people under 21. That's not my age. I mean, I hate to say it, I'm 35 this year, but it's like that's our biggest demographic, and I'm seeing that, and from a lot of devs that I speak with throughout networking and so forth, their biggest demographics for their retro type games are not people you're my age, Brian, but they're like 10 years younger. So it's not that AAA. I think AAA does a finally seeing, oh, wait a minute. Maybe you know, like you said, people, you know, around our generation, you know, maybe we need to look at them more, but also maybe we need to bring these games to a new generation because they might enjoy them as well, because there is a market there. And I think the success of Pokemon Go, I mean, how many, okay, like, here's just a sampling. How many people do you think play Pokemon Go between the ages of 13 to 60? You know what I mean? It ranges all across. Mm-hmm. And if that can happen with a small little app like Pokemon Go, why can't that happen on just as grand a scale with releasing something like Nintendo Classic or with an I Am Setsuna or something like that? I think these devs in the past have done a disservice thinking that kids nowadays only want to play a certain type of game that's flashy and quick. You know, it's just, yeah, you know, there's an evolution there, but sometimes evolving a genre doesn't mean you have to nix what made the genre so great to begin with. You can celebrate it. You can evolve it. You could revolutionize it, but don't throw it away. You know, don't be like, well, this is not what kids are gonna like. Case in point, how many people bought Shovel Knight?
Yeah.
There you go. Shovel Knight, perfect example. I'm willing to bet dollars to pesos that I'm willing to bet dollars to pesos that Shovel Knight's biggest demographic is not people in my generation, your generation, Brian. It's people who are 10 years or younger. That's what I'm thinking. You know, I'm willing to bet.
Well, we don't have the sales numbers for it, but
no, but I'm willing to take a good gamble on that. I mean, I'm sure the player base for like people our age is very, very big, but I think like between the ages of like 13 and 21, it's probably their biggest player base.
Although I will say this, according to the most recent data for Shovel Knight, this past April, they have sold 1.2 million copies of the game.
Wow. That's amazing.
They have sold 1.2 million copies of the game, with most of their sales were 32% was purchased on Steam.
Awesome.
Let's see, it is... The majority of their copies have been sold digitally. Of only about 200,000. They actually did put out a physical version of the game.
What was that, for like Xbox 360 or something like that? I forget.
Wii U 3DS. It's actually Steam and 3DS sales make up 61% of its sales.
Wow. Yeah, that's what I figured that. So digital is where it's at. I mean, why would you pay for overhead if you don't need to?
There are some people, and I include myself in that group, that wouldn't mind having physical copies of some games.
It's true. I would too, but it's getting to the point where, I mean, and especially as the cost of games does rise, because as you well know, Brian, game development is a very costly endeavor, especially for AAA devs. So I mean, like, as the price of game development increases, obviously a lot AAA does, especially, they're looking to cut their expenses, and one of the biggest expenses is doing physical copies of a game. When you do digital, all it is Steam takes 30%, and that's it. That's all it is, and the rest of it is pure profit, which is amazing.
Yep. So yeah, 1.2 million copies for Shovel Knight, for a game that came out in 2014.
Now, see, that right there sends a strong signal, which is probably why we're seeing what we're seeing now. That sent a strong signal. That was 8-bit. That was an 8-bit game.
Yep. Which
was amazing. Actually, that was my game of the year for 2014. Now that I think about it, yeah, it was. Wow.
And just a couple, because I'm now looking at the Yacht Club Games page, breaking down much more detail the sales figures for Shovel Knight. Steam again 32%, with the 3DS at 29%. Its weakest, it has sold the least on the Humble Bundle, Humble Store.
Oh wow!
At 1%, PS3 1%, and GOG 1%.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
The vast majority of its sales are coming with Steam, 3DS, and Wii U. Because it feels like a Nintendo game. It
does.
43... Yeah, am I reading that correct? Yeah, no, almost. 40% of its sales are on Nintendo platforms. So, yeah, I mean, it's got that strong Nintendo 5-year-old feel to it. And when they weren't there at PAX East 2016, but they were there PAX 2015, and I had spoken with them and told them just how much, 5-year-old me is so happy with this game. As well as 30-year-old me, because I can beat it.
Right?
If I played this game when I was 5, I would have thrown my NES in frustration. So.
Oh god, controllers would be thrown.
And they're pretty thick built, those controllers. So they can do some serious damage. But yes, so the nostalgia train is alive and well.
And it's only going to get better. I hope. I really hope. I hope more game devs take notice of this.
And
I really do.
That's not to say that games that exploit the power of modern PCs and modern consoles are bad. That's not the message.
Not at all. No.
That's not the message we're trying to portray here. It's just that, I think it's probably a fair assessment to say that for gamers our age, and I'm going to sound like the curmudgeonly old man of the group here, kind of getting the impression that AAA developers are leaving their older gamers behind.
It's true.
So, whether anyone out there on the wide world of the internet agrees with that assessment or not, it's a case in point. To this, even now, the PS4 and the Xbox One have been out for a couple years now, and I take a look at what's out on those systems, and I'm like, yeah, there's almost nothing catching my eye at all.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I bought the PS2 for the first time, or actually even the PS1. I remember what game I bought PS1 for, and that was for Final Fantasy VII. And for what was it? Final Fantasy. There's 2 games I wanted for it. Final Fantasy VII and Parasite Eve. Those were the first 2 games I ever bought for that system.
2 great games.
Yeah, 2 great games. And then I got Xenogears right after that. So for me, it was like, trifecta. Because Squaresoft could do no wrong back then. But in PS2, I believe was Final Fantasy X, actually. No, it was Final Fantasy X and Grandia 2. Those are the 2 games I got for PS2. That's why I bought a PS2, was for those 2 games. I didn't buy a PS3, and I still don't have a PS3, and I probably never will. I saw nothing that garnered my attention for it, anything that was a system seller for me. PS4, I don't have a PS4. I probably never will get a PS4. I do all my gaming on PC, I don't see anything that really says to me, Tanya, you need a PS4. What do I need it for? There's just nothing really out there. I mean, Brian, unless I'm missing something, and you tell me, is there anything out there that really has garnered your eye and captured your interest and said that you need a PS4?
I think the game that might do that for me is going to be the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Oh, God, yeah, I forgot about that, yeah.
And, Kingdom Hearts 3, whenever that comes out, although at this point, I'll probably be 95 when that game comes out.
Oh, man.
But that's the thing. I mean, the PS4 is what, $400?
Yeah, that's so, and it started at that price.
Yep.
So it hasn't really gone down any.
So I typically, when my interest in a console is, as soon as there are enough games out there that exceed the cost of the console, then I feel justified in buying one. I haven't really seen all that with either Xbox One or PS4. That is just a personal opinion, and, I'm sure a lot of my friends have PS4s or Xbox Ones, and they love them. And great! Have a blast! For my own gaming preferences, I haven't seen much that interests me to the point where I must buy this.
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, like you, I have plenty of friends who have a PS4 or an Xbox One. More PS4 than Xbox One, to be sure. And they love their PS4s and they love the games. I'm like, good for you. That's awesome. Me, my next console I'm going to buy is going to be handheld. It's going to be the new 3DS. That's what I'm going to be buying. I want to, because there's a ton of RPGs on the 3DS I want to get that I'm really interested in. Stuff that even some RPGs that are not that notorious, I want to get my hands on because they look right up my alley. I want to play Xenoblade Chronicles on my 3DS. I want to play.
Good game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have yet to experience it. I want to experience that game. Another one that's Eternal. I forget the name. It's Eternal something on the 3DS. That's a JRPG, traditional turn-based battle system on the 3DS that I can't wait to play. I want to try Bravely Default, which I've heard good things about. I'm going to try
game.
There's games on there that is a system seller for me. I want a 3DS, and I'm going to get it for my birthday. But as for PS4, I mean, FF7 Remake, I may wait until it comes out on PC. And I know it's gonna.
Eventually, yeah. At this point, I have so many games in my Steam backlog. That's what happens with a Steam sale. It's just like, all right, let's just slog through one at a time. So, I think we've driven the point home that nostalgia is in, and right now the in thing. It is the thing to do, and frankly, I love it. There are people out there who are like, oh, we've moved on. Okay, fine, but hey, I'm enjoying every second of it. So,
hell yeah.
So, with that, we will take a break here, so you'll have some music as per the usual. When we come back, we will chat about more gaming stuff. So, you are listening to Tanya and I on our second free play episode of Season 6, Downloadable Content. We'll be back. Welcome back to free play number 12. This is the 12th free play episode we've done total since downloadable content started. And we continue right along. It's still Tanya and I. Hope you're enjoying the two of us just go crazy.
Hell yeah!
It happens, so.
Potatoes.
I kind of don't want to know.
Oh, man.
I kind of don't want to know. So we will continue our free play. I opened the first half. We will have Tanya open the second half. So Tanya, what have you got?
Well, actually, I want to talk about something not related to RPGs at all.
Oh my God! Call Scotland Yard!
I know, right? I actually want to touch on a gaming subject that people don't normally, equate with me, and I kind of want to talk about that, and just in general too. Is wrestling games. Actually, I'm a big fan of WWE. And people actually don't even know that about me, which is kind of funny.
Well, too late now. You've just released it.
Yeah, it's now out there now. And I'm pretty cool with it. I've been a fan of WWE since I was a kid. And there was a long stretch where I stopped watching it for one reason or another. Probably because it just sucked for a while. I've gotten back into it as of recent, and for the most part, I'm enjoying some of it. I think a lot of it could be better, but that's beside the point. But I want to talk specifically about the games. For me, I've been using a lot of WWE 2K16, which is the most recent release on PC. That's what I've been playing lately and using for my our KSW series on our YouTube. Little plug there. But just like in general, I want to talk about the next game coming up, which is WWE 2K17. And really where the series is kind of going, because right now, with especially with like the series that we're doing on YouTube and everything, everything's kind of contingent upon upon when like 2K17 will come on PC. It's not slated for it yet. It's only slated for I think PS4 and Xbox One, I think, and it's really hard, especially back in the day, it was really hard to get any type of WWE game on PC. I mean, there was such a long stretch there where like there was only like one game on PC that you could get your hands on. I think it was way back in the day. It was something like WWE, I think like WWE Raw or something like that on PC. It was not that great of a game. But for me, the recent games have really been a step up. Especially for YouTubers who create their own what's called My Universe series. I mean, there's plenty of YouTubers out there that have their own series that they make their own universe mode type thing, and they have their own creator wrestlers and all that, and it's really cool. I mean, we're doing kind of the same thing, just taking it up a notch with production and everything. But like, I think for me, I'm a little concerned about where it's kind of headed, because right now, this series is kind of headed toward a plateau with the release of 2K17. There's not really I'm not seeing a lot of innovation for games like this, and definitely tell you there's definitely a lot to be tweaked and a lot to be fixed from previous versions. I can tell you off the bat, there have been a number of glitches that we've caught on air, of live recording for KSW. We caught a number of crazy glitches from 2K16. One of them being, just an example, we had a referee during the middle of the match. He somehow ended up in the middle of the ropes and started flailing about like it was nobody's business, and he did that for about 5 minutes. It was insane. And sometimes we have to completely reset a match just to get a good recording out of it and get rid of a glitch that happens. They're very glitchy games. I shouldn't say very glitchy, but they do have their significant glitches. And for games like that, you really can't afford that. So it's a little concerning to me. I'm not really seeing much of an innovation there. I'm kind of seeing the development on these kind of games like plateauing, and I've been a big fan of them. Ever since like the PS1, which brought us the SmackDown series, of games. I really enjoyed them on the PS1, on the PS2. PS2 was an amazing time to be a WWE game fan. There were so many great games in that system, the SmackDown versus Raw series especially. One of my personal favorites from that point in time, and still a favorite of mine, is called Here Comes the Pain. I love that one. But I'm just not seeing that level of commitment and innovation that they used to have back during like the PS2, PS1 days. It's not as hyped as it once was either, and I just think it's a damn shame, Brian. I really do. These types of games can be a lot of fun. Even people not a fan of the product of WWE can have fun with these games just on a two-player basis. But I'm just not really seeing it. I mean, do you play any of these types of games, or?
I particularly don't, but I do play the occasional sports title, and I think I can expand on your point there. My extent with WWE actually lies back when they were one letter different, back when they were the WWF.
Oh wow!
yeah. I was a big fan back in the early 90s when it was WWF. I mean, to the point where I had the ring toy, and I had action figures. You know, I had that blue plastic ring. Square.
Oh, I remember that.
So my memories of the WWE are in the days of Hulk Hogan and Macho Man and Yokozuna and the early Undertaker and, you know, all that. So, but I do play baseball. I do play baseball games, so things like MLB The Show, things like that. And I think one of the problems is you're citing a lack of innovation with these games. And I think, and this is just, conjecture, is that the thing about sports games is that the rules of the game do not change. So I think that you can only innovate so much. Again, professional wrestling, you have rules. In baseball, you have specific rules. And any sport, you have exact rules of the game. So how do you improve on that without changing the rules of the game?
Well, I mean, if I may,
Go ahead.
Real quick, if I may, I think what I'm looking for in types of for an innovative feature, basically something like where it's more of a sim, where it's more of an actual you're really there type thing, where instead of just playing something that's there, if that makes any kind of sense. Like when you're playing a wrestling game, you're not getting that feeling where it's immersive, even during like the My Universe mode, which is a great mode. Don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously we're using it for our own series, but it takes a lot of extra post-production to get it to where it feels like it's its own thing, and that's on us. That's not even like part of the game, and you're not really getting that. Like you're not getting the for WWE, you're not getting the promos. You're not getting the interviews. You're not getting you're not getting the little details that make it an immersive experience where you actually feel like you're playing through an actual, we'll say, season of WWE. You're not really feeling it. It still feels very, and this is going to sound kind of weird because wrestling, I mean, obviously it's scripted, but it still feels very fake. Even in a video game, it still feels kind of, okay, well, I'm playing this wrestler against this wrestler, and it's kind of fun, but there's no oomph there. There's no extra added details that make it truly extraordinary experience where you can. Or even like you said, like you play baseball games. Yeah, I mean, obviously you have the base rules. You can't really, change them. But I think you can, to the extent where you can make it different and better, but still maintain what it is. Like, perfect example was way back in the SNES days. There was a game called Baseball Simulator 1000. And that game, which I played religiously, I might add, I used to love baseball games back in the day. That game, you could create your own league, and you could have what's called an Ultra League, where literally you could, by hitting a button during a pitch or a hit, you could call upon these powers that would either like have an extremely fast fastball, like 300 miles per hour, or you would have this this kind of power when you hit a ball that it would send out like little spikes or little tendrils of energy that would stop the guy from the like the infielder or the outfielder from catching the ball when you hit it. Stuff like that. It was actually really cool. But you don't see that anymore with now. It's just, oh well, see how realistic we can kind of get it, and that's fine. But that's what I mean by innovation. Like, where's the extra added oomph for people who want something more out of sports games? WWE, baseball, football. Another example before I end here is Mutant League Football. That I used to love that game on the Sega Genesis. I don't even really like football that much. I don't even follow it, but I loved that game. The ice hockey, the hockey games back on like the NES, Blades of Steel.
Blades of Steel. I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
That was a great game, and it had really cool stuff to it. I just, where did that go?
So it sounds like to me, from what I'm getting, is that you kind of want to see these sports titles break from total realism.
To a degree, or at least have the option to.
Or keep the essence of the sport or the game intact, but have these little sort of non-realistic things that can happen. And you brought up some of the older games, and I will counter that by saying that there are some games that do make tweaks to the standard rules of the game. You can take a look at basically all of the Mario sports titles. That's what Nintendo did.
Mario Sports. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
things like Mario Baseball, where you can play true to the rules of the game, but then there are options that you can turn on to allow pitchers to throw or batters to hit special pitches or swings. For example, you hold down a button, and if Mario is pitching, that fastball becomes a fireball that comes at you at 100,000 miles an hour. Or, Bowser, you press a button while he's pitching, and suddenly it's no longer just a fastball, it's a bullet bill coming at you,
That is cool. I kind of like that.
Things like that. So you have Mario Tennis, where, you can do things, Petey Piranha, he hits the ball with one of his leaf arms. It's, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, you can do that, but, I mean, you're going to have a developer that wants to take something like that on. I mean, you have series like MLB The Show, which prides itself on they are deliberately trying to make as realistic of a game as possible.
And let me ask you something. Since you bring up that game, I mean, I have total disclaimer, I've never played it. But I mean, I have seen screenshots of it in a trailer, of those types of games. And they look great. I mean, they do. They look great. But haven't you ever felt like you wanted something more from the game in terms of either, okay, like just off the top of my head, like what if there was a feature in that game where between games there was a type of drama that was added in, like where like the best plays and the best catches and everything was like interspersed within like a trailer type thing with this epic music and blah blah blah, and they really built up each game as a dramatic point, so that these games have even more meaning than they did. I mean, wouldn't that like interest you a little, or even as an option, wouldn't that interest you even more in a game like that, to give you more of a dramatic spin on it? To be like, okay, that was really cool.
Possibly. I mean, I haven't picked up a MLB The Show title in a couple of years, but when I do buy those games, I mean, I buy that specifically for the realism of the play, because you're using all of the actual likenesses of every MLB player. If I want something silly and quirky, I will pick up Mario Baseball or MLB Power Pros or if racing instead of playing Gran Turismo. If I'm not in the mood for a realistic racing experience, I'll play Mario Kart.
And those are very valid points, but I think for me, I kind of want a blending
Okay.
of the two. I mean, like for me, like especially when it comes to wrestling games, because I mean, really, you have two choices when it comes to wrestling games. You have the realism wrestling sim that is the WWE 2K16, 2K series, I should say, and then you have like All Stars Wrestling, which is the wrestlers you actually mentioned, a lot of the wrestlers of the past, and they do crazy kind of moves, and physics are out the window, and that type of thing. It's very silly. The wrestlers look so buffed up; they look like they're all on mega steroids. So it's like, and that's cool. I mean, it looks like a lot. That game I saw our Maximilian playing in that game just recently. It looked like a lot of fun, but that's not what I'm looking for. I mean, I'm looking for a game that presents itself as real, but it has an added element of drama to it. It has an added and has those added elements of immersion, where something is at stake, whether it's pride, or in terms of like baseball, whether it's pride about winning, or even like leading up to, like, let's say your team goes up to like the pennant, and wouldn't it be kind of cool to see something before that last game, in the series or something like that, where you see like this montage, like, and sports series have them all the time, like on TV, whatever, where you have this crazy epic montage of fantastic plays that were made, and incredible catches and awesome home runs and things like that, to show and to add in that kind of dramatic element. And even in WWE games, you're not really seeing. I mean, there's story sequences and stuff like that, but it's very repetitive. There's no oomph added to it. And for sports games like the show and whatnot, I think it'd be really cool to have a game that blends the two. I mean, what do you think? I mean, am I talking out my ass, or?
No, I mean, it's what you're looking for in a sports title might be very different than what I'm looking for in a sports title, for example. Like, I'll play MLB The Show, and I mean, I guess it depends on the sport as well, because when you have a baseball game, they can add touches, for example, old players. Like, you can play a game and you can create a team that consists of Babe Ruth, Yogi Berra, Ted Williams. You can play on old baseball fields that don't exist anymore, like Ebbets Field or the Polo Grounds, something like that. Baseball has 100+ years of history to it. So there are things that the developers will do to try to include. You can play as, like the 1925 New York Yankees, for example, or whatever. So, there are things like that. It's like, oh, well, that's interesting. And then they have things like campaign managers, where it's sort of you're playing as a manager of a baseball team, and it's a sim-like environment where instead of actually playing the game, you're managing each game.
Well, actually, that's what you're describing is just about exactly what the universe mode is in WWE.
Okay.
So, I mean, and you have the option of either simulating the matches or watching them, or playing in them, of course. And obviously for KSW, I don't play in any of the matches. We just, we watch the computer go at it. But like, wouldn't it be kind of cool if you had, not really story sequences, because you don't really need a story really in baseball, but I mean, like, wouldn't it be kind of cool to have a sequence where, even if it's just like a fake sportscaster going on there and going like, last game we had blah 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 with this many home runs, and today he's looking tough. He's ready. He's ready to hit some out of the park or whatever the case may be. I think it would just. I think it's the details like that would. Even for a realistic sim, wouldn't that kind of add an element of realism to it too? Not just like drama, but like add an element of realism. Like really go, so what I did in a game actually has meaning.
They kind of do that already to a certain extent with, again, baseball, with MLB The Show, because, well, the announcers that they use for those games are actual real-life baseball game announcers, number one. Okay. And if you are playing like a season mode where you are actually playing all 162 games, well, you're playing all spring training games, all the 162 regular games, and then playoffs, what you've done in that season will be referenced by the announcer.
Okay, well that's really cool then. Okay, I didn't know that. That is really cool. So it does retain that persistent memory. Then,
it does. So if you're playing, I'm a big Red Sox fan, so I'll just use David Ortiz as an example.
Okay.
David Ortiz is on a 10-game. If you in the last 10 games you've gotten a hit with David Ortiz, the announcer will say, he's riding a 10-game hitting streak coming into this game. So they already do something like that in this franchise.
Well, okay. Well, then that's what's missing from WWE then. Because they too use live announcers from the show, but they say the same things. There's no memory of what you do there.
Okay.
There's no for instance, let's say in a previous match, there was a sequence where Taker came from behind and knocked Orton on his ass before a match. And the next match, there'll be no mention of it. And that's, I think, what's missing for me.
Oh,
I think
okay.
for a lot of people is that persistence of events that happen in the game are never referenced again. Or if they are, it's referenced in a simple little sequence that's maybe 30 seconds long. And it doesn't really matter. I guess that's really my issue. Is that what you do in these games, they don't carry much weight, as opposed to games like in the PS2 era, which they did carry weight. When you were in a storyline, everything you did had significance, and it was referenced by the announcers, by the people in storyline. It went on, and I'm not seeing that nowadays, and that's my problem.
Then that tells me that whoever is making these wrestling games now have just gotten lazy.
You're probably right.
That's all that tells me, is that these developers have gotten lazy and they're just mailing it in at this point.
And now, with 2K17 coming out fairly soon, this is why I'm a little I hope it's better, than 2K16. I really do. I hope 2K17's, it has more stuff and then, it does that. But I'm getting this weird feeling it's just going to be like a better graphical, more match version of 2K16. And I'm like, I just... Maybe I have too high expectations now. I don't know. Maybe I was just too spoiled from the PS2 era, but...
It just surprises me that something like that, though, considering how professional wrestling is a scripted story base, it's practically a soap opera in some aspects.
Right.
That things like that developers don't take that and bring some of that into the game, because it is. Baseball is story driven, soccer is story driven. Professional wrestling is. So the fact that developers, whoever's making these games now, they're not stepping up their game. That's what I get from it.
And I think, and I definitely agree with you on that. I remember, this is just really brief, but I remember back in the day, I think it was for SmackDown Here Comes the Pain or something like that, one of those PS2 games, that they would run a tailor-made trailer prior to WrestleMania for your big match at WrestleMania. They would actually run a trailer that highlighted some of the moments from earlier matches that you did. I thought that was amazing. And to this epic track, and it pumped you up. It's like, that is so cool. What I did made a difference. And you don't get that now. And it makes me kind of sad, actually.
Well, you're a developer. Go make one.
Well,
go do it.
When I can afford a few $1 million for the likeness, I'll have to.
Oh yeah, there is that. There is that thing called licensing, and you don't want to make a game called Kisareth and the Joy of Copyright Infringement. You don't want to.
Right. It's bad enough that I get Chris going. That Chris calls the Dark Mistresses the Four Fiends of Copyright Infringement.
All right, fair enough. All right. Fine.
But what about you, Brian? Do you have anything?
Oh, let's see. I've got a bunch of tabs open, so it's just like picking which one I want to play with. I was reading an article recently. I think this article was on Polygon either yesterday or a couple of days ago, because it came up in my Twitter feed. I do follow the Twitter feed for Feminist Frequency, which is...
I know, that's with Anita, right?
Yes! And I've watched some of their tropes against women in video games, and I think they're fascinating studies. And you can always count the seconds before here come the neckbeards to attack anything that Anita posts. You count the seconds, but I think it was either, I forget where I saw the link, but the article is on Polygon, and it's talking. The article is the question that the article asks is, how are game companies dealing with online abuse? Because while I do not play online multiplayer games, just as a personal preference, I don't have the time, number one, and number two, I think my PC might throttle me if I attempt to do it. It does need an upgrade, but there's no getting around the fact that online abuse is unfortunately a thing, and a very serious thing.
It is, yes.
And I don't know how often, Tanya, you play, if at all, you go into the dark cesspit that occasionally multiplayer games, have.
Well, I'm trying to think. I think the only really multiplayer online game I actually play is Town of Salem.
So,
that's the only one.
Polygon decided that because of the problem of where video game companies, employees of video game companies are suffering harassment and online abuse, Polygon decided to contact 25 game companies and also trade organizations within the industry to discuss the problem. So this was the question they asked, and I'm quoting. Please, can you share with us how your company plans to deal with any situation in which an employee comes under abuse, doxing, or threatening messages? Alternatively, please let us know what steps you are currently taking to tackle this issue. And they clarified that the story there would include all the responses they got. So out of 25 companies that they sent this to, 6 got a reply.
Oh, jeez.
6 got a reply. 8 of them declined to give a reply, and 10 didn't respond to the request. Either way.
Wow.
So 6 out of 25 were willing and perfectly able able and perfectly willing to provide Polygon with this information. That tells me that the other 19 or so that did not give a reply, it tells me that, it tells me, why didn't these companies want to talk about it?
Well, I mean, I think, actually, I think that's a rhetorical question.
The only answer I can come up with is that these big companies have their PR to look out for, because there might be a consensus of fear that if these companies speak up about online abuse, that they in turn will become targets of said abuse.
There is that. That actually is a pretty valid concern, actually. Yeah.
Because, I mean, and I can understand that. I mean, as a company, you don't want to, open that can of worms. But I think that if more video game companies, these major companies, took a stand against the online abuse, then it might send a message to gamers that say, hey, cut it out. We're not tolerating this bullshit.
Well, I mean, actually, let me put it to you, Brian. You're part of an indie dev.
I am, yes.
You've seen how pretty much the industry, looks from inside and out. You've been to PAX East and everything like that. What do you think about companies that do take a stand but are attacked and they suffer, whether it's in terms of sales or reputation? But I mean, like, let's say those 6 companies that did respond, let's say they all put out an initiative that they're gonna do, that they're gonna even hire on some new people, and they're gonna really take it to these people that are doing the doxing and all that, and then they get pounded into the ground by just people on all sides, whether it's by the quote-unquote SJW crew or the quote-unquote Gamergate crew or anybody in between then. But they get pounded into the ground for their reputation, their sales suffer for their games. What do you think about that?
I think it's a crying shame, to be perfectly honest, because I am fully aware that I am in a position of privilege. I am a straight white male. I am the consumer's best. I am a company's best friend, because I know, just by virtue of how I was born, I am not going to, it's a very low chance that I will not be in a position where somebody hurls online abuse at me. I, however, know friends and have seen article after article after article of people who, they just want to have a good time. But they're also aware. They're aware, and they call out the video game industry on its bullshit. Because we both know that even now, even though that perception is slowly changing and the demographics are changing, with the AAA developers, it's still male driven.
Yep, absolutely.
And white male driven at that. So I don't think I think the responses to anyone, be it a fan, a consumer, or a company, responding, trying to take a stand against the man-children out there on the internet. I feel that they're probably going to take a bit of a hit, but I think that if they stood up and put their money where their mouth is by, they always put out the canned line, well, we don't tolerate, such and such. But I think if they put their money where their mouth is, I think it would send a signal to I think it would embolden other people, or even, even have fans who might, think twice about buying a game, might actually go and say, hey, this company's got my back, I'm going to buy their game. I think the effect can work either way. Yes, they're going to take, that company's probably going to take a bit of a PR hit, but we also know that in most cases, these raving idiots, these neckbeards and dude bros and man children make up a relatively small percentage of the total fan base.
That's also true. I mean, they're very vocal, of course.
Yes, absolutely. And with the internet, you have that wonderful and also maddening feature of anonymity.
And so they feel emboldened by their anonymity, and
yes,
they can do what they want.
But I also feel that at the same time, if more game companies took a stand against what is a very clear problem, I think the reverse can also hold true. I think that more people might be willing to say, okay, well, good on you.
Well, actually, that kind of leads me into another question for you, Brian, because this is a very fascinating discussion for me, especially for me. I'm an indie dev, of course, and let's say there's a game I want to do that features the main character as a transgender main character. But I know if I do that, I'm going to face a kind of backlash that's going to ruin my company's reputation, and it's going to lead to harassment type stuff that's going to happen, major stuff like that, maybe perhaps doxing and things like that, where people are actually like threatened, myself probably included in that. And I don't pursue this, what would probably be a pretty cool story to tell, because I know that's what will happen in this climate. What is your response to that?
My initial response would be, well, fuck the critics, full steam ahead. But, I mean, as I said at the beginning of this response, is that, there is PR, there is finances to consider, and obviously with a large company, they can take the financial hit. Whereas with a much smaller indie dev, it's very sad, but I can also see them not wanting to do anything that could be construed as controversial, because an indie dev does not have the luxury, most of them, of millions in the bank to go, all right, yeah, we can take this hit, whatever.
And that's really what it boils down to, and that's unfortunate.
Like I said, it's very sad, because I'm when I'm not video gaming, I am an artist. I'm a photographer, and I loathe censorship. Absolutely loathe censorship. I hate the fact that we have such extreme reactions to the most piddling of shit.
And it really is. It really is, Brian. Like, absolutely. It really is. And it's to the point where it's stifling creativity.
Yes, you can definitely make an argument for that.
I mean, it's not just like me or other indie devs, but I mean, I've spoken with people in other media, and even an author. I have quite a few authors I talked to, and one of them even said, I was going to do a story, a whole series, in fact. This is what she told me. I was going to do a whole series where the main character was going to be this lesbian transgender type person, kick-ass, heroine type thing. She's gonna be like, just like an Anita Blake type thing, just different. And in case anybody's not aware what Anita Blake who I'm referring to, that's a character from Laurel K. Hamilton's Anita Blake series books. Really great books. But that didn't happen because she was afraid of the backlash. And I told her, I said, well, maybe you should say, fuck the haters and just go forward. And she said, I can't do that because I'm afraid that that people I don't know are going to do something where it's going to threaten me or threaten my kids. And that made me so sad. It really did. It just made me so sad to hear that.
And it leads to the idea of, it's a double-edged sword because, again, now in the age of social media, that's a big connection between companies and fans. It's a much closer connection now between the two, which has the potential for a lot of good, but also the potential for a lot of horrible, horrible shit. For example, just last week, the actress Leslie Jones, who was in the new Ghostbusters movie.
Oh, yeah.
Just so much hate and racism and just nastiness. And she jumped off Twitter. She's like, that's it. And there was an outpouring of sympathy and love and hope and just positivity all around, and I think that's a big step in the right direction. But with social media, it's now given all of these hateful people a much easier and much more anonymous way to respond with such bile. Because they don't have to put a name to it.
No, they don't.
And they don't.
No.
So you have the larger companies who can take the hit by trying to have more representation in their game. For example, you had, obviously... I said this on Facebook not too long ago. I said, when did death threats become the accepted manner of recourse to something to express your dislike at something so minor?
That's right. I giggle, but I giggle because it's sad. Sad but true.
It's why, and I personally feel that if the bigger companies who have had employees who have been victims of online abuse, if they put their money where their mouth is, I think it has the potential, that sort of positive message can trickle down to the smaller developers, to the indie developers, and they hopefully can feel emboldened to take, that sort of creative challenge.
Well, I can tell you, as an indie dev, I can tell you, Brian, I would be lining up, but I'm waiting for a AAA dev to do it first. Honestly, now.
Oh, yes.
Honestly.
That's completely understandable because, it's very sad, but money also talks. An indie developer cannot afford to take the potential bad PR and the bad, financial hit. Whereas a big company can. That's just fact.
I mean, wouldn't it be kind of cool, and this is just like top of my head, but wouldn't it be kind of cool if Square Enix put out a title, I don't know what title, but put out a title where the main character was gay, whether male or female. The main character was gay, and it's part of the story, but it's not thrown in your face, nothing like that. It's just that's how he or she is, and they're the main character, and they take the heat for it, and they come out of it on the other end worse for the wear, but they're okay still because they're Square Enix. what do you think would be the lasting impact of a developer, a AAA dev that does that?
I would like to think that, if Square did something like that, I'd think that it would, tell other developers, other people who want to go into creating video games to create and write such stories with such diverse characters. I think it would say, hey, this is okay.
Is that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but is that what we're waiting for, do you think? Like, is that, like, collectively what we're waiting for somebody to say it's okay?
Maybe to some extent. I don't have a solid answer for that question, but I think if certainly more of the bigger companies, did that, I think it would sort of be, what's the word I'm looking for? Welcoming?
Absolutely.
And because that's what, we have, the landscape of video gaming is changing, and obviously that's a generational thing as well as, just what the market dictates. We are trying to see, more representation, more women, characters of color, different sexual orientations, because we want something to relate to. I am a straight white guy. I have thousands of years of representation.
Yeah.
I have thousands of years of media, of art, of gaming, of books. I have the pick of everything. Whereas somebody who might, may be a person of color who might be, who might be on the LGBT spectrum, they don't have anything they can relate to in the things they enjoy.
And to expand on it and to ask you this question, and this is really what it boils down to for me, because I am of that spectrum. You're right in that we don't have much to really, if at all, anything to really relate to for the things that we enjoy. We're only now starting to get, in some other mediums, we're starting to really get some representation there. But honestly, like, for me, I'm waiting for the day when I can play a transgender main character. Main character, not supportive, but a main. And in my mind, I say to myself, well, that's 10 years off. 10, 20 years away from now. When do you think that will happen? Like, what kind of time span do you think it'll happen?
I would like it to, the sooner the better. And I think as the generations shift, we will get to that point, because we are, in some ways, as a species, like ants. We do not do things hastily.
And I like that. That was a good one.
We as a species do not like rapid change. I mean, we are just taking a look at human history, or even this, the United States history. It has been only very, very recently since same-sex marriage became the law of the land, for example. And that's a cause that has been building up for decades.
Yeah, a long time.
So, and with each different age group and different generation, you're going to see more and more resistance to that. It trends that, the older you are, the more, hesitant to change that you're going to be. And, I see our generation as being more open, more receptive, and I'm hoping that sort of openness where we finally just get to the point where they're like, you know what? We're all just fucking humans. You know, what does it matter whether this person's black or this person's, you know, olive skinned, or, you know, a woman, or, you know, likes to have foursomes, or, you know.
I like that too.
It doesn't matter. We have things that we all enjoy. Just let people be.
And I hope we can get to that point, because then creativity will flow. Like, I know we'll see stories come out in gaming that will be extraordinary at that point.
And, you know, I miss Bob Ross. I'm so glad that, you know, he existed, because he was just the most chill person ever.
Let me just put a happy tree right here.
Oh my goodness, you know, just everything was happy, and, you know, do what makes you happy. You know, why do we need to get in such an uproar when somebody wants to see more of themselves in the media that they enjoy?
Do you think maybe it has to do with a sense of, well, obviously it's entitlement, but do you think it has to do with a sense of that still pervading notion of, this is my club, not yours?
Immensely. I mean, just evidenced by the Gamergate fuckery, we still have this notion that video games are a boys-only club, which boggles my mind. Because, why? You're sitting in front of a screen for hours. You know, what's so special about that? It's, you know, why does my gender feel that, you know, this is the exclusive province of men? Just, what? You're stomping on Goombas, for fuck's sake!
Too fucking true.
Like, I don't understand the idea of video games being for men only. Do you know how ridiculous you sound? Which is why characters like, I mean, we're talking back in the 80s when you had the one of the greatest plot reveals in all of gaming. Samus is female. And we're just like, you know, women gamers like, yes!
No, actually, that's a great example, Brian. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I can't remember for the life of me, because I was very much a kid at that point. But I wonder what the adult, well, not even adult, but more like, you know, older person's reaction was to something like that. And I don't mean like kids like us at that point in time. I mean like an older person's reaction when they found that out for the first time. I mean, do you think it would be approximate to what it would be nowadays? To like a lesbian person being really revealed as the main character or something like that?
Given that we have social media now, which we didn't have 25 years ago, I'm thinking that the reaction might be quite different, because it would be that information would be slowly disseminated, as opposed to the instantaneous gratification we get now. So saying that, and I agree with you. So saying that, does that mean that you think with the dissemination of that information being, you know, gradually consumed by everyone in the gaming sphere, do you think it would go over better? Or do you think because of the interactivity, it would be so much worse than like Samus back in NES days? I honestly don't know. I don't have a firm answer or even speculation on that. Because we have information at our fingertips every second of every day, I think it might. The negative reaction is going to come forth quicker, but I think the positive reaction would be also just as fast and more numerous. Because as we stated earlier, all the group of people who are just spewing all this nastiness and are just loath to accept anything that interferes with their worldview for even a second, they are a relatively small minority.
And I think the majority, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the majority of gamers, I mean, I've only had a couple of issues on either online or with other gamers. For the majority of my gaming career, I haven't had that much problem. Even when they know I'm female, they're just like, all right, whatever. I think the majority of gamers are just, let me game, do my thing. You're a girl, that's cool. I mean, is that what you're seeing too, Brian?
I think that as well. I think that for most people, they look at it and they go, "Oh, cool! Now give me the controller."
Exactly.
Because again, in the end, we just want to enjoy ourselves. That's why we play video games, to enjoy ourselves, to have fun. Why go to such lengths to try to kick people out of a club that has never been a strictly inclusive club to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird actually when you think about it that way, because I mean, there have been female gamers for as long as there's been gaming. It's just that it's only now really coming to light that female gamers, especially female gamers, that we make up quite a huge percentage of gaming now.
Half, shockingly.
Yeah, half.
So it's like, men frustrate me, and I are one. It's it's like, God, we're dumb.
No, you guys aren't dumb. Just some of you guys, some of the more vocal ones of your sex out there are just they have especially like one in particular that has the orange hair and is running for president and is the Third Reich reborn. That's yeah.
So just the demographics of players, we are about split here. It's about 50-50 at this point, and maybe even more so. So it's like, guys, you're fighting a losing battle. That's just how it is. So just shut up and let people have their games. We are not the arbiters of, who gets to play and what gets made available to the masses. It's just
Men are not the keepers of the frozen flame.
No, definitely not.
That was a Chrono Cross reference for people who didn't know.
For those playing the home game. So the article is called "How Are Game Companies Dealing with Online Abuse?" It's on Polygon.com if you would like to take a read. So now that we've gone an hour in this second half,
yeah.
Unless you have anything else you would like to add, Tanya, I think we're going to call this done. Unless, again,
yeah, no, I think I'm all set. Just that was a great discussion. Yeah, awesome, Brian. Thank you.
I thought so, and thank you. So, if any of you out there on the wide world of the internet have any opinions or any thoughts, questions, comments on this episode or any other episode of Downloadable Content, you can go to the website, www.dlcpodcast.com. All episodes are there. There's the nice little feedback button. let us know. Drop us a line. If you want in on future recordings, www.dlcpodcast.com. So, all remains for me to do is to thank Tanya, and Tanya for being on this episode.
Do I have to say that like 3 times? Like, thank you.
Well, if you'd like. So, and with that, I am Brian, and have a good one, everybody.